Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We have a really great interview coming up for you on this episode, so we are going to jump straight into What Say You. There are lots of different ways to leave a note for us. Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Amazon, and our website, just to name a few. This comment comes from a frequent commenter on our website, and I appreciate all of his comments, right? This comes from Paul Conance, and part of one of his posts, because you have to digest it in parts, right? Paul writes a lot, and I do appreciate that. But this part says, confession. When I listen to your podcast, I increase the speed to 1.5 times. LOL. And I don't miss a word, but don't take it personally. I do that whenever possible to save time. And Sean, I'm not going to lie, I have considered a few times suggesting to you that we publish our podcast at, 1.25 speed or something like that. Not that I know how to do that, but I'm thinking it might be a good idea, partly just because FA affects the speech and, it takes us a little longer, all that.
Yeah, so I feel like we could probably figure out a way to make that happen. And, maybe if it's too fast for some people, they can slow it down, right? Most players allow you to either speed up or slow down. But I'm with Paul. I don't think I listen to any podcast, ours or anybody else, at normal speed. It's always sped up. In fact, there's one episode on another podcast, very motivational. This individual gave a speech at a conference, and it was very much entrepreneurial, go after the gold, and, grab the tiger by the tail and whatever. Powerful. I've listened to it probably 20 times. I listen to it every now and then. Mm-hmm. And one time, I tried to listen to it at normal speed, and I couldn't. I couldn't hang. I was like, this sucks.
When I review our episodes, I always listen on at least 1.5. And then when I do slow it down to normal speed, it feels like we're just like in molasses. Yeah,
exactly. Well, I appreciate the comment, and more so, I appreciate Paul. We were on Zoom call with him not too long ago, and I was thinking about Paul and all the years and memories, and Paul's one of those guys in the FA community. Everybody knows Paul. Like, there's not one person on the face of the planet that hasn't had some sort of interaction with Paul. He's, I would call him the FA uncle. Paul's kind of a legend in our community, and I'm grateful, A, to be connected with him, and B, that he listens and he reviews unfiltered. He gives us all kinds of comments. In fact, not so long ago, we talked about Starbucks, and one of his comments on the website was, Sean, how much money do you spend? Something related to how much money I spent. Anyway.
Something that was like, Sean, what the hell, man?
Yeah, do better. So thank you, Paul.
We were lucky enough to have a conversation recently with a couple of accomplished YouTubers, advocates, entrepreneurs, and just fun people to talk with. Enjoy our conversation with Shane and Hannah. I have been watching this YouTube channel for years now, and I go on these 2-hour binges where I'm like, oh, am I still watching YouTube? Holy cow. And it's this channel called Squirmy and Grubs. And today we get to talk to the creators of the Squirmy and Grubs YouTube channel. So Shane and Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Thank you.
You guys have created so many hours of entertainment and connection for people like yours truly, and for so many thousands of people around the world, especially
almost
in the
a million to be exact, not 1,000, like millions.
Yes, thank you for that correction, Sean. And, especially in the rare disease community or the disability community, where people can feel like they're alone. And you guys reach out through your YouTube channel. So it's really incredible. Shane, the first thing I want to set the stage with is that you have a disease called spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA. And we've had a few others on our podcast with SMA. But as we all know, rare disease affects different people in different ways. And how does it affect your life?
Yes. So other than making me dashingly handsome, no, that's not part of it, unfortunately. So it was a disease I was born with. I was diagnosed when I was about 1 year old, when I was not physically developing the way other babies my age were. So I've never been able to walk. I have used a power wheelchair since the age of 2. And today, at the age of 29, I am very weak. I require physical assistance with most activities of daily living. And basically, SMA causes muscles to deteriorate over time. Now, there's a pretty big caveat that goes along with that now there are treatments available for SMA that pause or drastically slow down that deterioration. So that's been a pretty cool thing to not get weaker as I get older. But that is how SMA affects me. I'm a wheelchair user.
You've been together for 4 years. You just got married in 2020, September 2020. Hannah, you are able-bodied, as the general term might see you. So what's the most common thing people perceive when they encounter an inner-abled couple like you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when we're in public, people often perceive us as anything but a couple. We've gotten, is this your son to me? Or like, is that your
brother,
sister? Or your, Shane, is that your mom? Whatever. So we get that a lot. And then online, people go a little bit further and will say things like, that's not possible. You guys must be lying, stuff like that. So I think generally people just find it unbelievable because they don't see it all the time.
So with the online world, I guess that's probably where it shows up more. Does anybody ever blame you? Like you guys are just milking for money or something? Like it's an arranged sort of setup?
Yeah. I mean, if you can think of a conspiracy, it's probably been said about us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all out there. That is a pretty big one, that we have fabricated our relationship for almost 6 years now for money on YouTube, which is ridiculous because, I mean, I don't have to explain. I don't have to explain why it's ridiculous. But it comes from this assumption that a disabled man like me cannot be a worthy partner simply because I'm disabled. And therefore, it's absurd that Hannah would choose to voluntarily date me and marry me, which has all kinds of ableism and terrible stuff ingrained in it. But yeah, we get everything.
I imagine. I certainly don't want to ask all the questions that you probably have been asked and have probably addressed on your channel. I haven't watched probably as many hours as Kyle has, but I do have one question that I'm curious about. Who pursued who?
Ooh, that, I mean,
has it not come up before?
Objectively, it was Hannah.
I mean, but like pursued, it's hard. Like I introduced myself to Shane first, but like within a matter of days, we were both really into each other. So it wasn't really like a pursuit where one of us convinced
the other. It was a mutual, natural click of sorts. That's
very cool. Mutual and very quick.
And Hannah emailed me after seeing a documentary that had been made about me, and we began a conversation fairly innocently. But like Hannah said,
and we were 1,000 miles apart. Like, we weren't trying to date.
You weren't like, hey, let's hang out.
Sure.
But a couple days into it, like Hannah said, we were both like, we're feeling something.
There's something here. That's amazing. So speaking of being 1,000 miles apart, where do you guys live? Where's home for you?
So Shane's originally from Pennsylvania, and I was in college in Minnesota. So that's where we were when we met. And then 2 years in, Shane moved to Minnesota. So I finished my junior and senior years with Shane in Minnesota. And so that's where we live now.
Yep, Minneapolis.
Yep.
I know you've been married for a little bit now, and I recently saw an interview for, I think it was Style Like You. And one of the things, Hannah, that you said was it's kind of, I don't know what the word was you used, but it was like, it's absurd how much I don't need space from Shane. How well you guys get along. And there's got to be things that you don't like about the other person. What is it that drives you nuts about the other person?
That's a good question.
This might take a while.
Do you want to hear first? You want me to hear
first?
I'm
ready.
Oh, you have a long list?
No.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man. Here we go.
I think something that's become more apparent, as we've now lived together for 4 years almost. And, in our marriage, is that Shane is a very productive person. He loves to get things done. That's like his favorite thing. And I am not so much that way. Like I love a good lazy day, or like as many lazy days as I can get away with. So my biggest pet peeve with Shane right now is when I'm relaxing, don't want to do anything, I'm lazing around, and Shane is like, should we maybe get something done? Like, let's just try to do something really important. And it gets old. So we have to balance how often we're doing something.
It is a balance, because I get to the point where I am so stressed out about everything that I feel like I need to accomplish in one day. And Hannah really brings me back to like recenter me and be like, all right, let's relax for an hour or a day. But we tussle over that every once in a while.
We're both learning to compromise with that.
If I had to pick a pet peeve about Hannah, and it's sort of related to my productivity, but I am very time conscious. Like I need to be early, and the possibility of being late to things stresses me out to no end. Hannah, how should I put this? Hannah lacks an awareness of time.
I'll give you that.
So,
I do.
So if we have to be somewhere in 30 minutes and it's a 20-minute drive, that always seems to be when Hannah says, I'm going to make myself a sandwich.
I'll be like, it'll take me 2 minutes.
Or I just need to shower real quick.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we do not have time for that.
Yes.
Shane, where do you think your promptness comes from? Not that you don't need a reason to be prompt, but where does it come from, you think?
Ooh. Well, I'm sure a therapist might have a different answer, but I think my mom has always been a very organized person, and I think she instilled in me kind of this like this productive and like time sensitive awareness. I have definitely in my adulthood taken it to a new level. But I like to feel like I have accomplished things, and I don't like to upset people. So I don't like to miss deadlines. I don't like to be late. But if we dig a little deeper, there's probably other reasons as well.
Nice.
So right now, knowing this conundrum you guys find yourselves in, Hannah wants to rest, Shane wants to do. How are you guys striking that balance? Are you planning it in a calendar every now and then, or is it just when the mood strikes? Hannah, do you have to really debate and fight for it? Like, how do you strike that balance?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. We have a calendar that I keep meticulously.
I'm not surprised.
Up to date, and it always seems to be the case that even though it's on her phone and her Apple Watch, Hannah finds a way to not notice calendar items.
I don't check the calendar. So Shane will be like, I put it on the calendar, and I'll be like, well, you know that I don't look at the calendar. You should have just told me.
No, I think that before we devolve into a fight here, I will say that we're very good at communicating. That is like the cornerstone of our relationship. And so it's just a matter of having conversations. So I will say, hey, we have to do this, this, and this week. Like, when do you think we can get that done?
Yeah.
And we'll both give our opinions, which are usually different. And then we'll meet in the middle somewhere. Yeah. So, I think if one or the other like demanded that we do it our way all the time, that wouldn't be healthy or productive. So, what's the word? Compromise. Yeah. Yes.
I'm curious what a lazy day, what's an ideal lazy day, Hannah? When it's time to just chill, what does that look like?
Ooh, sleep in. So Shane's already off on the wrong foot because he likes to set an alarm.
I like to be up at 7 a.m.
Yeah, he likes to be punctual. So sleep in.
This whole interview is just how we don't get along.
All of our issues. Late breakfast.
Late breakfast.
Eat a little bit later.
And by that, she means like 2 p.m.
No, noon.
I'm in. I'm right there.
Exactly. Have brunch. Sit outside.
Yeah.
Maybe play a video game.
I like to sit outside, but I like to be on my laptop.
You bring your laptop
with a hammer in hand or something. Yeah. Okay. Your laptop.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
You guys mentioned how you met. I think that in general, the disability community has a more difficult time, what they perceive as a more difficult time finding love. And I'm wondering if I'm asking for a friend, and I'm wondering if you have any advice for people out there who are disabled and looking for love in their life.
Yeah. So we should begin probably by saying that we're definitely not experts. And what works for one person might not work for another. One thing that was really important for me in my journey of kind of self-acceptance and finding love was realizing that my kind of difficulties finding a relationship were not because of anything inherently bad about me, but rather society's ignorant lack of understanding of disability. So for a long time in my youth, my teen years, I really internalized a lot of the difficulty that I was facing in the dating game, and I thought that was a problem with me. But I began to feel a lot healthier and a lot more in love with myself when I flipped that on its head and thought about it in terms of, society not being understanding of disability. So that's like one thing.
I think something that was interesting for us is that neither of us was looking for love when we found each other.
Not actively.
Yeah. Not actually. Like, we didn't meet on a dating app, and, neither of us were actively, that wasn't the world in which we met, which I think was helpful, because when I saw the documentary about Shane, I instantly knew a lot about him, obviously, because it was a documentary. And then we started talking and got to know each other, you know, as friends, and we had mutual interests, and it was very clear that we would get along. So I think, you know, finding someone in, you know, in a world in which you are passionate about, like we interviewed a bunch of couples for a book that we're writing, and they all have, like, one of them is disabled or both of them are. And one of the couples met playing a video game, like they met in the game and got to know each other in the game and obviously got along, and then started talking outside of the game. So I think meeting people in a way that you already have shared interests and, you know, you're attracting people that are interested in the same things that you are, versus just going on a dating app where like the only shared interest it's guaranteed is like you're both on that dating app.
You're both looking for a relationship. Yeah, I think that, you know, in that same vein, pursuing what you're passionate about, what you like to do, can lead to connections with other people. And as Hannah said, then you're meeting people in an environment where there isn't that immediate pressure, because non-disabled people do have that hesitancy here and there, not all of them, but there is that hesitancy and that lack of understanding about disability. So if they can get to know you in a way where it's not like, you must be my partner forever right now, it can be really,
yes or no right now.
It can be helpful.
Speaking of non-disabled people, I've had the question before, and I don't know, I think people are genuinely curious and they genuinely want to know, how should I talk to somebody with a disability, or how should I behave around somebody with a disability? What is your response to that?
Number one, do not come up to me and pat me on the head like I'm a dog. I'm not a dog, I'm a human. Let's start there. I mean, I think it's pretty, it's going to sound obvious, but sadly, it's not for many people. And that is to treat us the same way you would treat any other person, non-disabled or otherwise. When Hannah and I go out in public, we do not approach every stranger that we see and strike up a conversation and praise them. You know, we don't do that. We keep to ourselves, and we go and we get our groceries or whatever we're doing. I have found that non-disabled people, like, when they see me out in the world, they make a point to come talk to me, to praise me for whatever I'm doing. Like, even if I'm just sitting at the doctor's office or, you know, doing something very mundane.
You're so brave.
Exactly. I'm an inspiration.
Or even just like little remarks, like, you know, looking good there, buddy. It's just like it's just a little odd.
You wouldn't say that.
Keep it up.
I don't say that to anybody else.
That's a good point. I don't walk in and out of Starbucks when somebody walks by me and you know, keep it up. You're walking great. That's a good walker.
It might sound a little bit negative, but what I prefer is that people that don't know me don't engage with me unless they have a real reason to. Like, I'm all for being friendly, but, you know, don't go out of your way just because someone might look different or do things differently.
There's an assumption they're making, right? That isn't necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that people have kind of mixed reactions when we say things like that. Like, you know, they think that they're being friendly and that they're just trying to help. And I think they need to ask themselves, why do they feel like we need help? Why do they feel like
that's going to make your day?
It's going to make my day to offer me a lollipop when I'm a 29-year-old man. And like, yeah, it will make my day, but
that specific scenario.
It sounds like the kind of people you interact with need to be arrested.
Maybe I should report this.
Oh man,
it's awesome.
You know, a little bit ago, you were talking about society in general, relationships, or even in this context where somebody might feel the need to offer you a lollipop or to come give you some pat on the back, either verbally or physically.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, obviously you've got an incredible platform. Your channel is entertaining and it's educational and it's eye-opening for millions of viewers. If you guys could change one, maybe two things about society, if you had to, you're going to die on this hill, it's this one thing or two things, what might those be?
I think so many of the issues that we face with like people's attitudes toward our relationship or toward disability in general just stems from the idea that disabled people are less than.
And a tragedy.
Yeah, that disability is a horrible thing. It's like a life not worth living. The people that are disabled are not as good as non-disabled people, all of that stuff. So I think like just that general idea, if that didn't exist, like people would have no reason to doubt our relationship. They would have no reason to, say all the things they say.
And since you gave us two,
yes,
I will agree with that wholeheartedly. And then I think the other huge piece of it is I would want our society to prioritize accessibility in all forms. And I don't just mean making sure that every building has a ramp, but making sure that disabled people have the resources and the systems in place to live fulfilling, amazing lives. So many disabled people can't reach their full potential because the systems that we have are unfair and even cruel towards disabled people.
Yeah.
So that, fixing all of those things, making making airlines accessible, all the things that need to be improved in accessibility.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because in my head I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to talk airlines for a minute, and I forget how much time we agreed to, so I don't want to totally mess anything up. But I am curious. We've talked about it before on the show, accessibility in airlines. Obviously, you guys are traveling right now. What is it about airlines? Where are they missing the mark? What would you say? If you could sit down with the CEO of XYZ Airlines and they were willing to fix it, quote unquote, what might that look like?
For us, the answer, and again, this might not apply to every disabled person, but for us, the answer is simple, and that is to make room on every airplane for a few wheelchairs. Find ways to safely and securely strap down wheelchairs so that people who use them can remain in them.
Yeah.
And I know that the whole airline issue is, a fluffier issue. Like there are much more pressing matters, cycles of forced poverty and things like that, lack of housing. But not being able to fly is a huge difficulty in our professional life for us and hundreds of thousands of wheelchair users. And every other form of transportation has been made accessible. It's not for lack of science or the technology. It's a financial issue.
Money. Yeah.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
It blows my mind when I think about how many millions, if not billions of dollars flow through airlines specifically. And, if they made room for two wheelchairs, maybe four, what are they losing? 5 seats, 6 seats? And
exactly.
What does that equate to? A couple million, maybe a year? Like, to me, that just seems like pennies.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't.
Yeah.
I'll give it back to Kyle.
That's enough for a whole episode there.
Yeah, right. And I'm not even in a position yet where that impacts me on a personal level, but I see that coming down the road, and all my friends, they deal with it, and it frustrates me.
It's very frustrating. Absolutely.
All right. So just to take a little pressure off Sean's frustration, can you guys tell us about the Spaces project sponsored by Genentech? What is that, and what did it mean to you?
I'm going to explain how we got involved. Genentech came to us and they said, we have this idea, and we want to know if you might be involved. And they said, we would like to make a song with disabled artists and performers that is about the experience of, having a disability, being disabled, a song made by disabled people for disabled people and for all people. And on that phone call, Hannah and I laughed because we thought they were joking. We were like, well, we have no musical talent. Yeah. And they were like, don't worry, you're not going to be anywhere near a microphone. We want you guys to help come up with the ideas for the lyrics and help promote it and all that wonderful stuff. So that made a lot more sense. And we agreed. And over the course of a few months, us and many other people in the SMA community brainstormed a song and created a real song with an amazing singer, James Ian, who also lives with SMA. And then we made a real recording of that song and a real music video. And now it's out in the world. And the song has an amazing message.
And it's a really good song.
It's an amazing song. Like, to the point where routinely I have to be like, Hannah, stop humming spaces.
That's true.
But yeah, it's a really cool project, and we were proud to be a part of it.
I listened to it a few times, and I found myself I couldn't get it out of my head for the rest of the day because, it's pretty catchy. It is a really good song, but, what my takeaway from it is much like the message of this podcast, living beyond circumstances, finding out that it's possible to live a full life with a disability. And I think that's an amazing thing where the reality is, yes, absolutely, 110%. It is possible, but people just don't realize it until they see it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, growing up, I didn't have very many or any disabled role models. So I didn't know what was possible for my future. I didn't see disabled people having families or careers because that's not portrayed in the media, and therefore had kind of a uncertain and negative outlook on my future. It wasn't until I got older and met more and more disabled people living amazing lives that I was like, oh, this is possible. And I think, the song and James share that message in a beautiful way.
On YouTube, your videos are funny and you guys have a lot of fun together. So do you think people are surprised when they find out that you're allowed to laugh and you're allowed to have fun, even when faced with disability, for example?
Absolutely. And sometimes we get people who I think it might be their first video that they've watched of ours, and they're a little bit taken aback by the humor, or they'll say she's so mean to him, like when we're just teasing each other. And I think they're definitely surprised that, Shane is cracking jokes about his disability and making fun of it or any of those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not even directly about disability, but just realizing that disability is a part of your lives, but it's not everything about you, right? And you enjoy everything and you laugh at everything. And I think it's a great example.
I do, yeah. I mean, disability obviously colors our experience in every area of life, but it's not the all-encompassing feature of our life or our relationship. And that's one reason that Hannah and I get along so well. We both approach difficulty and adversity with humor and making jokes. It just helps us deal with it and, not be upset all the time.
Yeah, I think it also helps people, who are watching our videos learn something while also laughing. When we talk about a specific topic that's important, like airline travel, if we talk about that, they're more likely to listen if we're also
funny.
Being funny. Exactly.
Yeah.
If we were just making very serious videos about serious topics, it would be a lot less fun to watch.
Yeah, that'd be pretty boring.
So it helps get messages across in a more entertaining way.
Yeah, you really trick people into like learning things, right? They're like, wait, I'm laughing. Did I seriously just learn something?
There's a reason why late night TV show hosts have stronger ratings than cable news talk show hosts. Like, no, they're just, it's just different.
Yeah.
So with your platform of your YouTube channel, people look up to you and they think you have all the answers. Does that get exhausting, and how do you recharge?
That's a very good question.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bigger way that we experience burnout, if you will, or exhaustion is through the constant pressure to keep creating new and exciting, entertaining content. Making a single YouTube video is a lot of work, both mental and physical and emotional. It's all of it. And we try to put out anywhere from 2 to 4 videos a week. And if we don't do that, we begin to hear from people wondering where we are and why haven't we made anything in 5 days or whatever it is. So that can get really, really tiring. I don't think either one of us thinks of ourselves as like the be-all, end-all expert of disability or anything like that. So we're pretty comfortable saying, we don't have all the answers. This is just our experience. And that helps not feel like, we have the pressure to answer every question.
Also on your channel, you've been incredibly vulnerable and open, and you give us a window into your lives and a lot of details of your lives that other people don't share. Anyone who does this, that gives such a window into their lives, they are subject to a lot of criticism. I feel like you addressed this a little bit earlier, but once again, how do you guys deal with the criticism that comes along with such a public life?
Yeah, I think we handle it differently. Shane, having grown up with a disability, I think has a thicker skin than I do. So he'll read, criticism from people and like genuinely doesn't care about it. Whereas I care more about it. I'll be like, oh my God, I can't believe this person said this thing. Especially when the criticism is about tiny details of our lives, like what you were saying. If someone says your relationship is fake, I don't really care because that's like so blatantly untrue that it just doesn't bother me. But if someone is like, you're using the wrong knife to cut that potato, like that is just so irritating. I'm like, why do you feel the need to tell me that? So,
why does it matter?
I know. Why do you care?
People that criticize on that level, they never do it nicely.
Yeah.
They're always
like, you're an idiot.
It's like, you're the dumbest knife user I've ever seen in my life.
It's always that. It's never like, I just wanted to let you know. No, it's not. It's always rudely. So, I try not to read as many of the comments as Shane does. But that's really all we can do. And we try to just.
I give Hannah a daily high-level overview of the comments.
Yeah.
They are generally good.
That's all I need to know.
Wow. I imagine there's got to be a balancing act in that as well. Maybe a bit harder in the earlier days of YouTubing and being open. But I would assume even if they've been doing it for 20 years, there's always going to be one comment or one approach that's going to get under your skin.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a constant challenge or battle to look at yourself and realize that you're still pretty freaking awesome, even though you are using the wrong knife or whatever it may be.
It is a balancing act, realizing that not every opinion on the internet is necessarily one that we need to consider. Like some people are just ignorant and wrong, and that's okay. Well, it's not okay, but I think quote that I really love and try to live by is to remember that the people that are booing you are not on the field with you. They're up in the stands and they bought tickets to watch you play. So it's a helpful little motto that we try to live by.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's very similar to the quote, "The Man in the Arena," right? By is it Teddy Roosevelt?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, you guys. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I mean, thanks again for having us. We really appreciate it. You can check us out on YouTube at Squirmy and Grubs. And then, this Spaces song is something that we're really passionate and excited about right now. It's available wherever you stream your music, at Spotify, Apple Music, and you can watch the full music video on smamyway.com. So check that out. Yeah. It's a great song. It will be stuck in your head all day. Sorry about that. But yeah, thanks again for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm grateful to have those two as leaders in the disability and rare disease communities. They're so conscientious, they're down to earth, and just a great example for all of us.
Yeah, and entertaining, right? Easy to connect with, a lot of fun to chat with. So I'm grateful that they took time out of their day to hang out with us.
Speaking of gratitude, Sean, we're going to roll into our thank you notes. Who do you have to thank today?
I'm saying thank you to Starbucks. Recently, at least the one that I go to, right? My Starbucks. We talked not so long ago. I'm being a little more aware and careful to not spend money there every day of the week, and I'm doing okay. There's always room for improvement. But anyway, I went in earlier this week, and their machine was down, and as I've said, there's only one drink. If they don't have the nitro, I don't get anything. So that one day, they actually let me order and pay, but they didn't have it. So they ended up having to do a refund, and it was fine. I just went about my day. But I went back maybe 2 or 3 days later, and they gave me the drink on the house.
Oh, nice.
That was pretty cool. They didn't have to, there wasn't a big issue a couple days prior, but I think the fact that they remembered that inconvenience and that little bit of disappointment and said, you know what, this one's on the house, I think speaks volumes. To me, that's world-class service. So thank you to my local Starbucks crew. How about you?
I want to thank the crew at Gate C21 at the Philadelphia airport. I was flying out to California, and I got there early, and there was a assistant person for the aisle chair there, and they were super early. That doesn't always happen. And then I was like, all right, when should we go on? When do I need to be back? And there's a little counter on the little marquee thing behind the check-in desk right at the gate, and it says 20 minutes till departure, and it counts down, and they're like, when that gets to 2 minutes, we're going. And literally right when it turns, everyone is like, all right, time to go. It doesn't happen actually very often at all that everything works on time. And so I really appreciate that they were like clockwork.
It's noticeable when it does happen because it rarely happens.
Yeah, exactly. We recognize that it adds value to our lives when we show gratitude. And so we encourage everyone to write a note or send a text or express gratitude verbally to whoever you're grateful for, whatever you're grateful for. Write it down if you need to, just to yourself. But show that gratitude.
And a big thank you to you for listening and being part of the show today. We want to encourage you to check out Squirmy and Grubs. They've got some phenomenal stuff available online. You can visit our show notes for easy links. If you are enjoying this show, please continue sharing this with your friends. Those sort of things go a long ways. We look forward to chatting with you again next week. Until then, keep living with urgency.
Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. This show is possible with your support. Visit twodisableddudes.com to donate.
Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app.